Okay. Good morning, everybody. Airshop's Kodesh here in again Fancy Flatbush, heading to Fancy Five Towns. A couple hours, and yeah, getting ready for the 3 weeks. Some people are, you know, uh, limiting their coffee now, their caffeine, going down to 1 cup, and then Shabbos decaf, and then Sunday. Some people taking pills, things like that. I'll probably do both, but yeah, let's talk about that later. 3 weeks starting up. It's always you know, it's always interesting feelings each year going to 3 weeks. I kind of look at it as like a failure. You know, Mashiach didn't come, we're all responsible. In some ways, you look at the cloud that we're all failing, but some ways you have to look at yourself. Really, what could I have done? Could I made a difference? A personal gullus, personal geula. Are you working on yourself? It's easy to kind of point to people and say, "Oh, they're not together. They're not together. They have issues." But a lot of times we don't look at ourselves enough. So this week's parsha, Balak ben Tzipor, Eshkol Asa, Yisrael Mori, Yagar Moav, Ne'am, Kiravhu, Yakutz. So spend most of the parsha talking about the curses. Hashem gets angry. Gemara talks about that. Hashem gets angry for a second, less than a second. Matobu Lecha, a lot of good messages, good things to talk about. But one thing I really talk about is the interesting things that Balak saw. He saw what what the Jews did to Emori, and he was upset. Kiravhu called them a kahal. So the Marber Shemesh kind of takes apart this opening pasuk and says a lot of interesting things on it. First of all, one of the questions is you mentioned Sichon, not Og. Og was the one, the big dude, the last of the giants. Even though I think they were brothers, Medrash says that Sichon and Og were brothers. Og was the man. Og was the last of the giants. So if anything to be afraid of is that the Jews took down Og. That's something to be afraid of. Oh my gosh, they took down the big giant. Yeah, Sichon was a big dude. Amor was a big dude. But Og, Melchabashan, he was the man. People were scared of him. He had Chusim. He helps Lot, helps Sarah. We're afraid of Moshe was afraid of him. No. Balak says, wow, the Jews, they took down Sichon, let Mori. That's something. That's one interesting question that no one really talks about. Should have said Og. Well, the question is using the word hakahol, afraid of the kahol. Ramban talks about this, why kahol and b'nei Yisrael, hakahol, and then kirabhu. They are blessed. He is blessed. Rabhu, they are many. Like we see later, kibarahu, kirabhu. The word who is for him. He is blessed. Should have been haim, kirab haim. So this pasuk that Morah Shemesh bringing down, had it several times with Kli one of his great ideas that I really love. Cleo could use the word in the Pasuk Hoshea, 4:17. Chatzor Atzavim Ephraim Hanachli Chaber Atzavim Ephraim Hanachli. Hoshea is giving rebuke towards the Churban, first base of Mikdash. Hoshea is telling the people are joined to idols. Hanachlo. Hashem says, let them be. Hashem says literally to Hoshea, is telling the people, Hanachli, the people joined by Avodah Zarah, let them be. So Radak, so as David says, yeah, Hanachli, let them be. They're already so far gone. They're so far gone with Avodah Zarah. And literally that's what happens, unfortunately, as the Churban comes. So it's kind of a resignation. Kliaker goes the other way with this. And he says that if the people are chavor, meaning they are joined, they're attached, even though it's avodah zarah, henachli, meaning there's no punishment yet. There's no punishment yet. People have this idea where if they're connected, if people are together in achdus, then there's a chance for tshuva. What's connection? Okay, they love each other. Doesn't mean they're tshuva. No, the point is, tochacha works when people are together. If people are together and you have a friend then you could tell someone, you know what, you should really not do this. You should really go to Minion. You should really wake up on time. You should really not say Lashon Hara. If you're not friends with the guy, you won't say anything. And if you do say something, it'll lead to another fight. So Clearco uses this idea and he quotes Achav, the people of Achav. Achav, they were horrible people, wicked people, but they never lost a battle because they had Achdus together. And Clearco used this line, their Hamabel were destroyed, their Haflaga, which seems worse, they rebelled against Hashem, they were not destroyed because they were together. This Achdus. When it comes to their Hamabel, they hated each other. So there's no comeback for that. They hate each other. They're never gonna do tshuva. Reset button. Beep. So this idea that the Kliyakar uses, which one of my favorite ideas is that Achdus goes a long way. You know, when it's Tachach used only when you're friends with the person, it's supposed to be the Achdus or Kahal. And then Marva Shamash takes this idea, goes a different level with this. The idea that yes, Chabur means when they're united, but Heinachli, meaning let them be. The people were united, meaning that they were united, and this is what got them to win the battles. Uses the word emori. So emori, Sichon says, Balak says, the battle over Emori was a stam, but it was le'emori, Sichon le'emori. The battle was because they were together in tefillah, they were together in actus, they were speaking to each other. The word emori he uses as speech. And this is why he used the word kahal and the word hu, because kahal is congregation, meaning not just the people, but they were gathered. Hakahol, kiravhu, they were singular, they were one. The kahal was one, which is interesting because we we think or we know that all the 42 stops along the way, they were only Achdus at Har Sinai. That's Vayichan. But Mara Shemesh doesn't mention why he says something different here. It's okay. We're okay with this. But the people were together when it came to Sichon as well. And maybe this is the second time, I guess, only. And that's what scared Balak. Not the fact that they took down Og or Sihon, the fact that it was Le'emo read, that they were together, they davened together, and this is what got them the battles. And that's why Balak was afraid. He knew this. Rob who? Singular. And this is kind of really, unfortunately, every time this war goes on and there's deaths, another Beit Shemesh soldier, Sergeant Noel, went down, was killed. Um, as long as this goes on, we can point our fingers to Netanyahu, point our fingers to the UN, point our fingers to Hamas. Um, that you got to point ourselves. Got to point at ourselves. If there was Optus, if there was a singular message, the Jews were united. Um, battle would have been over much faster. We'd have the Gula, or at least the battles would have been over a year ago, year and a half ago. We'd have well, the hundred soldiers that were killed. They wouldn't. Well, we don't know. Either way, we do know that's a message that we can take away. It's Chabur. People are together. Hanach. Hashem will leave us alone. Meaning, even though maybe we deserve a patch, we deserve punishment perhaps, but if we're together, Hashem would not take it out. And maybe Hashem would push that out, delay it, and it'd be time for tshuva and the geula. And hopefully, those 3 weeks starts Sunday. We have this message. Hopefully, 3 weeks we don't have a Tisha B'av. Hopefully, maybe the war will be over. We don't have these shibbas to go to, all these bad things, and that's kind of the bracha. Bracha is as we approach 3 weeks, and we know that the three big sins are the first, Beis Mikdash, and Sinas Chinam was the second one. We haven't got the Gul yet because we're still in the Sinas Chinam mode. People, unfortunately, internal fighting with each other, and when we fight with each other, the other nations see this. They see the Jews aren't together. There's Jews, you know, in Iran wanting to take down Israel, joining with Palestinians. We see this on the internet. and we see all left people fighting for this, and people on the right fighting for this, and people with the army, without the army. There's a lot of strife going on, unfortunately, internally, and this causes, unfortunately, the problems that we're seeing. And hopefully, these 3 weeks, we see less of it, less of the fighting, and hopefully, we see the Gula. With that, Shabbat Shalom.